when the scriptures say declare his word, we think of like missionary work and bringing people to the church and like giving our gospels. But I feel like it can also be like declaring his love for everybody through you. And I feel like that would be a great way to connect to God.
Hi, and welcome back to Christ-Led Youth, a podcast for youth by youth. This week we're talking about Doctrine and Covenants 98 through 101. The topic is, be still and know that I am God. As I was studying this week, I thought of the question, what does it mean to like be still and focus on God? Like, how can we be still?
I feel like, at least for me, I feel like doing things we love and going out, for me, I love running, and sometimes like if I'm overwhelmed or stressed out about something, I'll go on a run and listen to church music, and it really helps me like stop focusing on like the stress and like the worldly things in my life and start focusing more on Christ and really like talking to him and like just having a conversation, I guess. But also something that I also loved and saw was Benji. He goes on like walks and like picnic with his dog, and it's really cool. And I love that because sometimes like we really do need to just like have that one-on-one time with Christ, and sometimes it doesn't have to be you reading your scriptures and going to church and saying your prayers and going to the temple and like all of these things, even though they're still really good. And I love that he has that and I love that he has that like relationship where he's like, oh, well, like if I'm stressed out, I know I can go into my scriptures and I can be stress-free for that little time and focus on God. And I love that for him. And it's definitely something that like people that we should try to figure out, like, okay, what works best for me to focus on God? Does reading my scriptures, does praying, does going on nature walks, does riding my bike, all these different things. So it's really good to kind of, especially with our busy lives, we should find something we love to focus on God in our lives every day.
I really like how you said that, because I feel like a good way to like take a step back and focus on God is focusing on the times in between of all of our activities, because like with how busy lives can get, I feel like the times in between can be so important. I was reading in D&C 99 verse 2. It says, "And you shall have power to declare my word in the demonstration of my Holy Spirit." And when I think of that, I think like in the times in between when we're walking to class or driving to school or just going somewhere in our lives, we can always like take a step back and like compliment someone, being like, "Oh, I love how you did your hair today. You look so beautiful." And because I feel like when we think of like when the scriptures say declare his word, we think of like missionary work and bringing people to the church and like giving our gospels. But I feel like it can also be like declaring his love for everybody through you. And I feel like that would be a great way to connect to God.
Yeah, I think just, be still and know that I am God. I think everyone, like, the be still part, I think kind of has like almost hidden meaning, because, when we're still, we aren't moving. And what he's literally saying and showing is that in any moment, in any place, we can stop and be still, and there will be things around us that show and help us know that God is there, and he has put these things in our lives. And whether that be nature or music or something, everyone has their own thing, but you don't have to go look for it. It's be still. You can be anywhere, and everywhere around you there's proof and little things showing that God is there and that God loves you. And like Lily was saying, it's also, along with all the things that he's put in our lives as evidence and as reminders of his love for us and his existence, he also gives us the opportunity to be those reminders and to be that evidence for other people. Because sometimes other people aren't being still, and sometimes other people are so caught up in their life and they aren't seeing the things that God has already put in their lives, and we can be those things for them, even if it's just complimenting someone's hair or something small. Just being the light that they may not have already noticed in their day can be something huge for us. And it's a big opportunity that I think a lot of us don't even realize we have.
I like what you said about like being still and not moving. And I love the physical aspect of it, like physically sitting down and reading your scriptures. But then also it can just be like mindfully being still. You can go about your day and still like be focusing on God and still like having that simple mind and just putting him as your top priority, but also kind of going about your day but just keeping him in the back of your mind and making sure that like you're always focused on him.
Yeah, there's something that I love that both of you guys kind of said was like being still and having that like open mind, I guess. But something that like came to my mind when like talking about when Benji said that when we're still, we kind of see all like the blessings and like the beauty around us and stuff. And I feel like we kind of go about our day sometimes like it's like a crazy day, but something that reminded me of that is whenever like go to the beach or the mountains, you know, anywhere in nature, and you're just like, oh, you're just like walking around playing with your siblings, like swimming, all this stuff. And but there was this one time that we were at the beach and we were just messing around, just playing in the water or whatever, and somebody was like, oh, like go underwater and just listen. And if you go underwater, it's super peaceful and it's like quiet and stuff, and you can like see the fish and you can like hear the dolphins and stuff. And sometimes throughout that chaos, if you just like pause and like let yourself like be still in the midst of all the chaos going around, you can see all the beauty and all the blessings that you're receiving. So that's something I really love that you guys said.
It's great to like think about how we can focus on more of our blessings now, but I feel like it's also really important to focus on like how we can keep our discipleship active in the future, and also like how we could help others like in the earlier stages of life focus on their blessings then, and like how we can keep like our path towards God.
I think it's scary to think about the future right now. Like, we think like, oh, I really hope I'm going to be in the church when I get older. Like, I don't know what like path I want to take, but I know I want to stay in the church. And we've seen so many people fall away as they get older. But I think that this foundation that we're building as youth is so important, and making sure that our testimonies are strong and like just doing all that we can, serving and bearing our testimony as often as we can, and reading our scriptures, just doing like the primary answer stuff, and kind of just like planning like in your head, like I will stay in the church and make sure that God is always in my life. And so making sure that like just know that we want him in our life is like very basic, but it's the most important.
I think just like you said, knowing what you want and knowing what it takes to get there. You know, a lot of people complain about not having things or not having things their way, or, you know, other people's circumstances, but you are who you want to be, because when you want something, you'll find a way to do it. And I think, you know, kind of like you were saying, it's the little things, and you know, looking at where your choices are going to land you down the road is an important thing. And I think, you know, a lot of times we're so stuck up in worrying about everything. Like, just be you and be happy in the moment and enjoy the things around you. But remember that your choices have an impact, and that's going to put you somewhere down the road. And, you know, you got to keep yourself accountable and look what that person is. You know, like, when you think about the choices you make today and where it's taking you down the road, is that someone that you want to be? And along that goes with, you know, surrounding yourself with people you want to be like. If you want to be a godly person, if you want to have strong faith and you want to have that for the rest of your life, then surround yourself with people who already have that, because that will strengthen you. You know, being around people who have faith and who have a good relationship with God will help you see how they're doing it, and will help you develop your own personal relationship with Heavenly Father, and whatever that may be. And, you know, as important as it is to surround yourself with people that think and do the things you want to do, it's the same thing with the opposite. You know, a lot of times we have doubts, but it doesn't help to rehearse your doubts with other doubters. So I think a lot of times it's just, you know, be happy where you are, make the best of what you can do in the moment. Everyone has different circumstances, but you have a choice always, and you always can change that choice, and that choice will always affect yourself down the road too. So just like kind of be like aware of, you know, be thinking, how is this going to affect me down the road? Is this something I want to be down the road? You know, am I happy with the person that I see in the mirror down the road because of the choices I'm making now?
That second part of your question, it was, how can we help others stay in?
Yeah, like others in like earlier stages of life, because I feel like it's important to start earlier so that you like know what you're going to do when you get older, especially when you're starting to go through middle school and high school and so many things are changing, and just I feel like it would be nice to like know how to get a better, like you said, foundation for our.
Yeah, I think it's important to like be a role model to like even just like the primary kids or middle school kids. They look up to us and we don't really know it. And so making sure we are always nice to them. Don't treat them like a little kid and they're insignificant, and make sure that like you're kind to them and setting a good example and showing them like, oh, I love Christ, and being that, like you said, good friend and people that you want to be around, and helping them to want like the desire to like strengthen their testimony and be a disciple of Christ.
I actually really like that because it reminds me of the story of when people were gathering around Jesus and pushing away the children because they're like, you don't know him, you're not like faithful enough to know him. And he pushed them aside and he was like, children, come to me. I want to hear from you. I want to know you, and I want you to know me, and I want you to feel my love. Because I feel like if we do treat like younger people like they're insignificant right now, then it won't help strengthen their faith in the future.
It's like the tree saying, it's like the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the second best time is now. I think a lot of times, like, you know, just like you said, like everyone deserves to feel the love of Christ, no matter how young they are. And anyone, the oldest person, youngest person, it doesn't matter. You can start feeling that love at any point. You just gotta want to do it.
Speaking of our future, the chapters, it was Doctrine and Covenants 99 and 100. Kind of talked about when we like leave our families to serve missions or do the Lord's work, and it says if you're serving the Lord, he will protect you. And you guys are older than me, so like how does that bring you comfort as you're preparing to go to college and go on your mission?
I think when we're in the service of God, we really have nothing to fear. And one of my favorite examples of this is David and Goliath. And it's an incredible story by itself, but 1 Samuel 16 and 17 is where the story takes place. And in 1 Samuel 16, which is before he meets Goliath, it talks about how David was anointed as a king and how God anointed him as a king. And David knew that this was his future, and he knew that this was his calling. And it was something that he had accepted. He had accepted God's calling for him to become a king and a leader amongst his kin and his family and people around him. And then we go on to 1 Samuel 17, where he fights Goliath. And, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, that's where he got his confidence, was from God. And because he knew that God had a plan for him, and he knew that his plan was to be an anointed king. And he knew because of that, you know, he couldn't lose to Goliath, because he had God on his side and God has a plan for him. It's like, well, sorry, Goliath, God's got a plan for me and it doesn't involve dying, so I'll fight you to the death, sure, because I can't lose. So it's like, you know, God has a plan for each one of us, and I don't care if that involves dying. As long as I'm fulfilling his plan, I'm doing all that I want to do, because that's what brings me joy. is fulfilling God's plan. And I honestly do not care where that takes me, because I know that if I'm doing that, I'm doing what's right, and that will bring me pure joy, no matter what that end of the road is, so to speak. It just gives me confidence and peace to know that I'm doing because God has a plan for me. And as long as I'm doing that, I have nothing to fear.
I love that, and I definitely agree with Benji. I feel like we've definitely gotten to that age where it's like, well, he's going on a mission, like probably like next summer, and like I'm going to college, and like all these things, like all these big things that are going to be happening to us soon. And it's, to me, like I was very like scared, at least. Like it's definitely a scary thing to like move away and stuff, but like Benji said, like doing God's work and like knowing that he has a plan for you and trusting him and trusting the plan that he has for you, and making sure that you are praying to him and making sure you're listening for him and trying to understand what that plan is sometimes, because sometimes I'm so lost. I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing right now. But I know that God has that plan for me, and it's going away to college and my mission and all these things that are going to lead to me being away from family for a while and stuff. That definitely still is a little scary and stuff. I won't lie about that. But knowing that like I'll be doing what the Lord wants me to do definitely brings me comfort, and especially because I know he'll like be with my family too and protecting my family. And I also know that like I know that God protects us and he protects our family, but sometimes like things can still happen, and obviously that still scares me and everything, because if it happens like that, it happens. But it's definitely comforting that no matter what, like I'll always have Christ there to comfort me and give me that peace. So no matter what happens, like I'll be able to turn to him and have that peace, knowing, okay, well, this is what's happening and this is the plan, and this is the blessings are at the end of the road, and Christ is with me. So this sucks now, but I'll be okay, kind of thing. So yeah.
Doctrine and Covenants 98:22 goes along perfectly with what you guys are saying. It says, "Keep my commandments, and he will turn wrath and indignation from you. The gates of hell should not prevail."
Love that. I think just, keeping the confidence, the gates of hell shall not prevail. That's all he says. There's no exceptions. There's no prerequisites. It's just they won't prevail because they can't. Because God is in control, period. The end. That's all there is. So pick your side.
I loved how much we talked about being still for God and knowing that he's always watching over us and our families and our friends, and how it just helps bring us closer to him and brings us comfort knowing that he's always there for us, even when our lives are so busy and so fast. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.